I'm Cody O'Reilly with JoinTeamHunt, sharing real stories from the West, insights from the hunt, and new ways to connect with fellow outdoor enthusiasts. Be part of the action. Subscribe to JoinTeamHunt. Rate this episode and tell a buddy, because you're not getting any younger and those mountains aren't getting any easier. John Barklow. Hey, man. Pumped to have you on today.
Thanks for asking, Cody. Thanks for asking. If anybody's ever listened to me before, they know I like to talk. So,
Well, I got a little Irish in my blood, so I got the gift of gab. So I'll do some talking myself.
yeah, right on.
Ah, man. You're a wealth of knowledge, John, and your resume speaks for itself. What are you up to these days? What's you got fired up lately?
You know what? I've got more stuff going on. So I've got two deals, right? So I got my day job, so to speak. I work at Sitka Gear, but I've got this other side of me, kind of my personal biz, and I've got so much going on in both. But yeah, just launched a new course on outdoor class called backpack hunting. So that course just launched yesterday, I believe. That's on outdoorclass.com. I've got two more courses coming out this year as well to support that main course. I've got three courses the year after next year, and then three courses after that. So I got a lot going on there. I just launched and announced the pre-order for my new book that's coming out early next year, Knowledge from Storms. So, I've got a lot going on. I'm writing some articles for some national hunting mags right now that'll come out this, early this fall. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff going on. And then obviously doing podcasts. So
You've done quite a few podcasts. I've listened to a few of them, but you do a great job, man.
no, I appreciate that. We were talking before we jumped on, and I think you're of the same cut from the same cloth. But I'm honestly here to pass on whatever information I have. If people find value, I'm excited. Like, there's worse things to do than try to help people. So if people ask me to come on and talk, and I'm available, I always try to make the time, because I just think it's important for all of us, right? Like, these digital mentors or modern day mentors or whatever we want to call it, like, these platforms are kind of what people look to now.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of funny. It's shaped in the last year. It's really sped up in the last year, but the last couple of years, these podcasts and the knowledge is just so easy to get a hold of. And it's like, okay, we have all this knowledge. Now what is the next best thing to where, okay, you got the knowledge. Now what are we going to be reaching for here in another year or two?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's really where, I think my platform, my message is, knowledge or access to knowledge is easier than ever, and that's a great thing. But it's not some kind of superpower that you have just because you listen to us on this podcast. And then it becomes, and I think here's the fun part, but it could also be a bit challenging, is taking that knowledge and now going and getting the experience. So knowledge from storms is, hey, I got all this knowledge, and I got this knowledge from getting my ass kicked in the mountains for decades, right? And so it's based on experience. Now take the knowledge that we're providing, and we can help you start a little, I like to say, higher on the mountain. But now go outdoors and get some experience of your own, and like, that's when it truly comes together and provides capability. And that to me is the fun part, because you can do that essentially any time of the year. You don't have to have a tag in your pocket to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Knowledge from Storms. So that's a book you wrote, right?
Yeah. It's coming out. It'll come out next year. But yeah, I've been working on it way too long. But my whole platform, I got a website. It's all called Knowledge from Storms. Just because when I thought about it, and I'm like, how did I get here? How did all this kind of transpire? And it was just kind of through determination and tenacity of going out there, failing, making mistakes, getting, hurt, having bad nights outdoors, coming back, learning, reaching out to people who had more knowledge than me, resetting, going back. And that's the only way kind of the burnt hand learns best.
Right.
But it's like, if you don't have to burn your hand every single time, why would you not take some advice from people who, and so to your point, like you said, within the last year, I would argue that certainly it started to ramp up since COVID, where people were at home, people could get outdoors, because they couldn't even go to a gym, right? That they started finding the outdoors, maybe people who had never considered it before. And that's when I think over time people have started um, to provide more information, but it can almost be overwhelming. There's so much information,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I agree. For viewers who don't know as much background about John Barklow, where did you learn all this and how did it kind of start off? And walk us through kind of who John Barklow is.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting progression. And I think there was, certainly a moment in time I'll talk about that was unique. But I grew up in Ohio, Northern Ohio, self-taught archery deer hunter. I was a miserable failure at it, but man, I loved it. Like I don't know why, I don't know how. It's hooked in me when I was like 12 or 13. I still have the first book I ever, well, my parents bought it for me probably for Christmas on whitetail deer hunting. I still have it, um but that's kind of where it started, and going out and trying to learn land navigation with a map and compass and getting lost, and you know wandering out into some cul-de-sac, probably in some neighborhood, not knowing where I am and having to ask permission and can I use your phone to call my mom to come get me, kind of thing, right? That's where it started. And eventually after high school, I joined the military. And I call it an eclectic career, but started as a deep sea salvage diver, spent a lot of time overseas, thousands of hours underwater. That eventually got me with the SEAL teams teaching what they called combat diving. And at the same time, I was pursuing all these adventures on my own. Hunting, I started when I was in California. I started learning to climb and ski and even pursue becoming a mountain guide. And that eventually led me to bringing those skill sets back to the team, not knowing that at some point 9/11 was going to happen. And once 9/11 happened, my life really changed. My career really changed dramatically. I ended up in Alaska at a training facility, and up there what we did was we created the curriculum, the clothing, the equipment, the tactics, or what they call TTPs, um, for modern mountain warfare. And so for the next I was trying to add it up, like the last 7 years of my career, and then an additional 6 or 7 years as a government civilian GS. All I did was focus on how to get operators in the field and keep them there in these uncompromising environments. How can they survive and thrive and get the mission done? And at the same time, I started going on solo dull sheep hunts and mountain goat hunts and caribou above the Arctic and all these things. And I was taking the lessons that I was learning in my day job, so to speak, and applying them to hunting. And so I lived in this really unique incubator where they paid me to do these things. Crazy enough, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually I retired. And when I retired, I wanted to try to land a job in the hunting industry. And I eventually, luckily, got a job at Sitka Gear and was able to basically take those lessons and begin applying them to these clothing systems that we build. And then eventually during COVID, when I was working from home for 2 years, that's when I started my own business to like share those ideas, that all that knowledge that I learned to a broader audience. So, everything I just covered is the span of 40 some years, but that's been it, this natural progression to kind of get where I am today.
Before we keep rolling, if you're getting value out of this, let us know. Drop your biggest takeaway or pass this along to a hunting buddy. Join Team Hunt is built by hunters for hunters. And your voice is what keeps this community growing and the camaraderie strong. Now let's get back into it.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for running us
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
When you were going through that military experience and you basically trained to be in some of the worst situations possible, right?
Yeah.
And you're constantly working on your mental toughness.
Mhm.
I'm imagining, right? So, I mean, I'm just working through this in my brain so I can help cascade this out. But what are some tactics or tips, or how do you guys, when you guys train, how do you push through that envelope? And it's like a muscle, right? That we constantly have to work. What did you learn from the military to help get through difficult situations?
Yeah, I think, all of us are unique and we probably start in a different place. But, a couple things. So when you're military, small unit operations specifically, when you're dropped off kind of in the middle of nowhere, you're on your own, and it's mission success or bust. You don't get to come out of the field when you're cold, tired, hungry, feeling lonely, whatever the case may be. The only thing that matters is the mission. And when you think about or extrapolate that to, say, a Western hunter who's, taken years to draw a tag or spent months of training or time away from, vacation days and gas money, like once you're in the field, you want to be able to stay there and be as effective as possible, right? So it's different but very similar in a lot of regards. And it didn't matter what the weather was like. Didn't matter, again, if my feet had blisters or my stomach was grumbling. It was like focus on the mission and get that done. So there's a couple things. One, if you can surround yourself with people or even a hunting buddy who kind of shares that same outlook, like, hey, we're going to go out there. We know this is going to be tough, but there is a bond that's formed with shared suffering, right? And not everybody's going to have their best day every day. And so if I'm having a bad day and you're having a good day, I'm going to feed off your positive energy that you're going to provide to help me over my tough day, right? And so that's the first thing that I think is important is, get a good partner, try to align. That's going to help each other kind of become a force multiplier to each other. But the other one, and the biggest one, and the one that, don't nobody should kid themselves and think, oh, this dude is so mentally tough. These units are so mentally tough that nobody ever struggles. That's bullshit. You rely on your partner, but the other thing is try to make your world small. And what I mean by that is when you're out there and it's a snowstorm or it's raining and you've got your hood up, don't focus on the misery. Focus on the next step, the next objective. Focus on the next meal. Focus on, the 2 more miles you have to cover, and then I'll be in my tent. I'll be under a tarp. I'll be able to make that hot cup of coffee. And so you live for those small moments. It's very easy for a lot of us, to include myself, to become overwhelmed by the moment. When I'm out in the middle of the mountains with a bow in my hand by myself, it can be completely overwhelming, especially when you haven't heard a bugle in 3 or 4 days. You think the rut's over. You've had other hunters bump the mule deer that you've been chasing for a week, and they come into the valley that next morning and just completely blow them out. It's easy to get down. And so you have to just keep thinking about, okay, what's the next immediate goal? And just focus on that. Okay, I got to find the next deer. I got to get to the next layup. I got to get to my next meal. Whatever it is, the next sunrise. If you keep your world small, it takes this overwhelming thing and cuts it down into digestible parts. And then you're able to just slowly piece those together. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh man, you know what? I've been out here 4 days. I finally found a bull. I heard a bugle. And as well as I do, and I have to tell myself this all the time, but a hunt can go from zero to hero in literally the blink of an eye. And it happens all the time to most of us. And so it's like trying to keep that positive mental attitude and living for those little moments is kind of how you kind of digest this giant overwhelming thing.
Right. So I like that, the common goal. I come from football background. I played a lot of football, college football. Been part of 2 national championships.
Wow.
And you kind of I reflect back on, okay, what made those teams more successful than other teams? And everyone was driven towards that common goal, and we were all bought in. And
Yeah.
if you don't have that, you're not going anywhere, and you're not going to be a championship caliber team, or you're not going to be out there hunting 350 class bulls every year. I mean, it's just
Right.
not going to happen.
Right.
And another point that you touch on, which is awesome too, I love that, is just focus on that one objective, that one item. And this, I'm reflecting back on this too from a hunt that I was in. We shot 2 bulls in a hellhole. I mean, we were an absolute hellhole. And we had to take these 2 bulls, which is 400 pounds of meat, up 1,500 vertical feet in a half mile, and made like 8-10 different trips. But if we were focusing on that 10th trip, I mean, it's just that first trip. Let's knock this out. Let's do another trip. Let's knock that. But yeah, I agree, man. Those are 2 huge items.
Yeah. But what a labor of love, right? So that's a perfect example where I say, okay, maybe we were foolish or not to go down in the hellhole.
Right.
But oh my gosh, are we just the luckiest 2 hunters to have now this overwhelming task of hauling meat out, which means we've been successful.
Yeah.
And so I just try to focus on the success, right? And to your point, focus on the first load up, then focus on the second load up, then focus. But if you look at all 10, you're defeating yourself mentally, emotionally before you ever start. Now, before we can continue, can I ask you one question? Because I don't know if we can be friends or not.
Yeah,
What national, what team were you on?
So I played for Kalen DeBoer. He's down in Alabama now.
Okay.
And I played at University of Sioux Falls. So it was NAI
Oh, right on. Yeah.
Division 2.
Okay.
So, and just learning from those guys, Kalen and the crew that he's got. I mean,
Yeah.
And I played for them, and then I transferred to Mankato and played a little bit. I played with Adam Thielen a little bit too. But playing for those guys, I mean, it was just a completely different caliber of football. And it was funny. If we were ever down like a touchdown or 2, it was plan A, B, C, D. And everyone thought that way. Like we were never out of it. We were always going to win. And it was incredible just to kind of be around that philosophy and the never die situation. You're going to win no matter what. If you're down 3-4, we are going to win. And everyone thought and believed that way. But it all started, to your point, that same common goal. Everyone was bought in, and they're all working on that one play, one task at a time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as long as you didn't play for Michigan, we can be friends. So
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't have to get off immediately because I'm a big Buckeyes fan. But you mentioned, the different plans or courses of action and having that. And, obviously, I'm just going to assume you guys went into those games prepared. That's why you had those plans, right? And so when you have that, it builds that confidence to know, all right, you know what? There's no elk here. There's too many hunters. They bumped my mule deer, whatever it is. I thought there was water. There's no water, but I've got, B, C, D, and E locations I can go to, and that's a reset. That's a refresh for your brain. And so I'm not out of it. I'm not out of it until the last minute of the last day of shooting light, right? And it's tough, but I have to consciously tell myself those things. Not all the time, but certainly at times. And that perspective that you have or your team has or you and your partner have of, hey, we're not out of it until essentially it's done.
Right.
That's a very powerful thing that I think gets overlooked, even though this, hunting is not necessarily it's certainly not an organized team sport, but there's a lot that can be learned and leveraged over from that to really help people be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think being part of that team atmosphere, how much that means to us humans. And I think we were meant to be thriving with others, so to speak. Um, and just throwing a couple examples out at you is I've been on hunts, probably 6, 8 hunts out west, years, a couple different hunts, but I've been on those solo hunts, just me, myself. And then I've been on those hunts where I was with a buddy or two. And just, I've had a lot of success on solo hunts. I've had a lot of success with a couple guys. And reflecting back on those successes, it's just like so much more rewarding when you can share
Yeah.
those hard efforts, those joys, and you kill a big animal with a buddy or two, you're still sharing those stories for years on end with your family members. And it's just much more meaningful and impactful in my eyes. And but that's, and some guys aren't that way, but from my experience, I am that way. And I think it's just, I've been grown up that way with sports and everything. And it's just, I don't know. I think we're much better off hunting together than solo all the time. But
Yeah. I did well over a decade of just solo hunts and just trying to like figure out my own stuff. And I almost didn't want the help. I was a little stubborn in that regard, need to figure some things out. And, it's hard to get people to align on schedules, and especially in Alaska where it's, big, long stretches of terrain and expensive to get around. But, last year is an example, last elk season, um, me and three other guys went into the mountains. And so that's like a big crew for me. But for whatever reason, just the way it played out, over 2 weeks, I was with all three buddies when they killed their bulls. And so I was there, maybe I had a part in it or not with a call or something like that, but, was able to share that joy with them, help them process, pack out that animal. But then I was going into the last day or two of the hunt. It was like a 2-week hunt, and I hadn't killed yet. And I'd had some opportunities, but nothing great. And I'd certainly hunted by myself over the course of that 2 weeks and just couldn't get it done. But anyways, that morning, my three buddies went out with me. They're like, no, we're going out with you. They could have gone home, right? They could have taken me to the processor. They could have, and I wouldn't have faulted them for it, gone back to work, whatever. We went out, and those three guys did the most amazing 3-person cow calf calling sequence and pulled a bull 250 yards uphill, which is almost unheard of, but pulled a nice 6-point bull uphill right into my lap, and I killed it at 15 yards with those three guys 30 yards behind me in the brush watching the whole thing. And I'm standing there after I shoot. He runs off 60 yards and he falls over, and I just got tackled from behind by these three guys. And like that picture that we took is like better than almost any hunt I'd been on, just because like I got to share it with them. They got to be there. And like I'm going to go have lunch with those guys today, and like we're going to talk, and like we have that shared experience. And so that, to your point, is so cool. And just, they helped motivate me to like go out, keep grinding. You're going to get this done. And then to do it with other people is like really special for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But then on the flip side, if you go out with a buddy or two that doesn't want to be there, it can be
it's the worst
situation. But
Yeah.
you got to do the planning. You got to have that common goal, and you got to be kind of all cut from the same cloth. And it can be a completely different experience than going solo hunting. And I just think it's pretty cool when you can share that experience with another guy or two or woman.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough to find good partners. And in the book, I've got a whole chapter on partners because I don't think we talk enough about it. And I've been a horrible partner for a lot of times. I've had horrible partners. We've had breakups. That's why I went on a decade of solo hunts, because I just couldn't find anybody I wanted to like spend my time with outdoors. But when you do find those guys, it's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
It's just not the easiest thing to do.
No, not at all. No. I got to tell you, I am a huge fan of Sitka. So
Oh,
I've for the last 10 years I've worn Sitka. Love the gear, and it helps that my brother he works for a law enforcement, so we get a little bit of a
oh,
discount.
yeah.
But I literally get like a different article of clothing each year. And every year I've just kind of bought a different article of clothing, and it's worked great for me. I love it. Um, One of the articles that I've liked probably the best over the years is that ambient. It was the
Yeah.
hoodie. I think you guys first came out with the hoodie, right?
Yeah,
And
the
then,
ambient hoodie, then it went to the ambient 100. I think it's a
yeah,
full zip jacket now. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that thing it's warmer than you think. It's lightweight, and you can just compact it down. And I literally wear it like the whole time I'm out there.
Yeah, so that not that specific insulation, but that concept of what I call active insulation. When I was in the military, we actually helped a company called Polar Tech commercialize that insulation and that concept. And so the military special operations was the first group in the world to actually build that in product and get it in the field.
Okay.
And then that company saw the value of it, and then they commercialized it for the general, outdoor space. So that was definitely one of the products I wanted to try to quote rebuild, at Sitka. It's a slightly different insulation from a different company called Primaloft, but that's one of my favorite. When people ask me like, "What's your favorite piece?" It's kind of hard to, but that's one that immediately comes to mind as well. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I agree. I had that ambient hoodie, and then
Yep.
last year I was looking for the hoodie, but I swear there was only the jacket.
Yep.
But now I went on there and looked again, and the hoodie looks like it's back again.
Well, there's an Ambient 75 hoodie, so it's a little lighter weight, but there
Yeah.
is a version of that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's just business stuff. People are, oh, let's try something different. Let's give somebody, a different silhouette, reason to buy. Um, but I got a couple of the hoodies. I'm a huge hoodie guy.
Yeah. What's your system look like? I kind of have a good understanding about the system and what you should have, but for the viewers that might not know, maybe it'd be good to kind of run through what you believe in and what you use, John.
So I'm going to try to keep this not a 30-minute answer, but I'll speak I'll speak in generalities because I think that's the best place. Because if somebody doesn't wear Sitka, they wear something else. It doesn't bother me in the least. So
Right.
I think the best value is to talk about the concepts of what I call the 8-piece clothing system. And so 8 pieces of clothing, in my mind, are what most of us Western hunters need to get through a year in North America. Now, there's lots of nuance within those 8 pieces, and you can mix and match brands. You can buy it all from one brand, but at the end of the day, the 8 pieces, and I'll go into a little more depth, but the 8 pieces are a base layer top and bottom. So that's piece 1 and 2, pair of soft shell pants, an active insulated top. So that's like the ambient we just talked about, some type of wind stopper or wind blocking layer, a static insulated top. So that'd be, people call those puffy jackets, and then rain gear, jacket, and pants. So those are your 8 pieces of clothing, right? So when you look at that, you're like, oh, well, brand X or Y, they offer all this clothing. And it's like, yeah, but, Cody, if you and I said, hey, man, like, we're going to meet in an hour and go into the mountains for 3 days to do a scouting trip, like, I already know in my mind, like, I already know what I'm going to pack, because I tend to pack those same eight pieces, but they can be a little different. So base layer, top and bottom, that's kind of like the foundation of a clothing system. it should be super lightweight, and really the only performance that a base layer needs to have is managing moisture on your skin. So in a hot weather environment, if we go out right now and I've got a hooded base layer, that base layer is going to pull moisture off my skin, and it's going to help me stay cool through that evaporative cooling process. But in a cold weather environment where I might have something over top of that base layer, if that base layer pulls moisture off my skin and my skin is dry, then I tend to be comfortable. I tend to be dry. So that's really all that does. A pair of soft shell pants is really, I call it part of my uniform, backcountry hunter's uniform. I call it my soft armor. Lots of different options, hip vents, knee pads, all kinds of craziness. Polyester, nylon, doesn't matter. Just find a pair that works for you. If you're a bow hunter, that it's quiet, that it's durable enough to crawl and slide downhill, all that kind of stuff. Active insulation can be as simple as a heavyweight grid fleece. It could be something more technical like the ambient hoodie, which I think is the most technical active insulation in the world. And really all that is, hey, I need to move, I need to hike, I need to stalk, I need to climb, but it's cool or cold enough that I need a little bit something over top of my base layer, but I don't want it to be so restrictive that it just bottles up my heat and I sweat out my system, I dehydrate myself. So active insulation has to be something that keeps you a little warm, but that dumps heat and breeze. Wind stopper or a wind blocking layer could be something as simple as a simple wind shirt that weighs 4 ounces and balls up the size of a baseball you can put in a cargo pocket of a pant, or it could be a full-fledged wind stopper jacket. All that does is allows you to put something on that's going to block the wind and shed a little precipitation. But the benefit, I think the true benefit to wind stopper, besides just cutting down on convective cooling, is I get a lot of people ask me, hey man, how do I stalk a mountain goat in inclement weather where it's a little snowy or it's misty or a little rainy or it's wet grass? If I put on my rain gear, it's going to be too noisy. If I put on my rain gear, I'm going to put holes in it. And I'm like, wind stopper is really where it's at because it's quiet. I can bury that wind shirt inside of a system. I could put the wind shirt over top of my base layer and under my active insulation. It's still going to keep me cool, or still going to keep me warm, cut down on that moisture, but it's going to be quiet, right? So that's what a wind stopper layer does. Lots of different options. A puffy jacket I consider part of my survival kit, my survival system. And a puffy jacket should be a little oversized, which most brands should make them that way. To just, hey, I stopped at a glassy knob. I'm gonna look around. I'm in camp. I might even wear it to sleep in. I'm gonna put that puffy jacket right over top of everything. It's gonna bottle in my heat. And the loft or the puffiness of the insulation is what's gonna trap your body heat. And so it's gonna bottle it in. Should have a hood. Down and synthetic are the two basic choices, but in the early season, like right now, if I went out or we were in the desert Southwest, I'd still have a puffy jacket. It would just be a thin puffy jacket, a lighter puffy jacket. Whereas opposed to late season, midwinter, I'm going to have a really puffy, warm jacket, right? But I still have one because if you and I are in that hellhole and we're like, bro, we just hauled 3 loads of meat out of here and I'm down here and I don't think I can make it up. Let's just build a fire. Let's, cook a meal. Let's hydrate, wait for morning and haul up in the coolness. If I just have a puffy jacket, you and we sit around a fire, we're going to be totally fine. Might not be the warmest, but we're not going to die of hypothermia. That's what a puffy jacket provides. And then rain gear, the most technical layers within any clothing system, no matter what it is, it's really intended solely to keep you dry from persistent rain and snow. Yes, you can wear it as a wind stopper layer, but it's you're going to wear it out if you're wearing it climbing over blowdown for 3-4 days. And then when you do need it in the rainstorm, it could leak. It's going to be expensive. It takes a little bit of time to, some maintenance. And so it's like, just put it at the bottom of your pack and hope to never wear your rain gear. Like, I hope to never wear rain gear again in my life. After living in Alaska, I never need to wear rain gear again. I've gotten several lifetimes worth of rain gear use, and I don't ever need to use it again. But if you need it, I also consider rain gear part of my survival system, because if I have a rain jacket and pant and a puffy jacket, and I am like hurt, I broke my ankle, I just in-reached you, and you're like, dude, I'm coming, but it's going to take me 24 hours. I'm like, check. I'm going to mark my location. I'm going to be under a tree. Hopefully I got a fire, but with rain gear and a puffy jacket, I'm going to be able to endure those elements and be ready when you get there. So, little bit of a long answer, but those are the 8 pieces that I am looking for. Now, if you want to go out middle of winter, you're heading to Alaska in October, November, Alberta sheep hunt, you're kind of questioning, do I need more? You could throw in a 9th piece, which would be a pair of puffy pants. But other than that, you don't need, and out of those 8 pieces, Cody, I may be wearing 4 of them at any one time. My puffy jacket and rain gear are normally in my pack. Maybe or maybe not, I need the wind stopper, right? So it's like, you're not, out of those 8 pieces, you're not carrying a lot in your pack. And then I never carry any extra of anything, because you don't need to nowadays, except socks and gloves. But other than that, clothing wise, I don't carry anything extra.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, I typically wear my base layers and then basically my wind stopper, my shell jacket. And then, and I wear that probably 60% of the time.
Yep.
And then once I get to my glassing knob, I'm throwing on my puffies. Last couple of years, I've thrown in the puffy pants, which help even more.
Yep.
Now you got your top and your puffy pants, and you're golden in my eyes. You make a fire, and you
basically are wearing a mobile sleeping bag at that point.
Yep, for sure.
Yep. We have actually a pair of, I don't know when this is coming out, but doesn't matter, early July, maybe right before the 4th, we're coming out with a bunch of new stuff, and one of those is a micro down pant. Nice. So like if you're wearing a super warm hyper down pant, now you can, like most of our elk seasons out west, like you could just wear a pair of micro down pants. I've been wearing them for a year now, and they're awesome. But yeah, I agree with you. Super warm, stay focused behind the glass, right? That's what clothing is meant to do, is protect you from the elements.
Right. You kind of stole my thunder. My next question: is there some new pieces of clothing coming from Sitka that you could share with us?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, it's next week. So those micro down pants are one of them for sure. And just so people know, because I always found it interesting, because I didn't know until I got into this industry, but like for what we do, we're working 2 years ahead. Like I literally was in a meeting yesterday talking to the business about where our developments are, which are about halfway through being developed, but where our developments are for fall 28. So we haven't, fall 26 is done. It's launching next week, and I'm already halfway done the team with developing fall 28. And we're talking about fall 29, believe it or not, because some things take that long, maybe a technology or, not just a design, but something more innovative may take that long. But yeah, so the micro down pants is one thing coming out. There's 2 new pairs of soft shell pants coming out, and I'm excited about both of them. We updated some last year. This year we're updating what we used to call the Traverse pant, is now called the Pursuit pant. It's a great pant. It's going to be a great value, and it's going to have hip vents. So everybody wants hip vents now. I didn't even know if I liked them. I started wearing them in this Intercept pant that I built, and I just love them. So the Pursuit pant is going to be kind of our more basic pant. but it's going to have hip vents. It's quiet if you're an archery hunter. It's lightweight if you're going out in early season and it's hot out. And on the other end of the spectrum, we're updating what we've had in the line called the Timberline pant. It was this absolutely iconic, really never duplicated pant, which was more of a mid to late season pant. It was a little denser material, and it had a waterproof seat and waterproof knees. And it was solid knees and seat. So if you ever saw yeah, I know you know what they are, but you
I
know,
wear them. I love them.
yeah. So that's updating. So the Timberline pant, as you know, it is gone. And me and this guy Eric have been trying to update the Timberline pant for 10 years for sure. Now we've updated it. You still have a waterproof seat. You still have waterproof knees. That that uh, that waterproof protection is got stretch in it now, where the old ones didn't. And it's lighter because we've been able to remove a layer because the waterproof material's inside. We didn't have to cover it on the outside with those big knee and butt patches. So it's called the brush pant, and it's going to have, so if you ever wanted hip vents in your Timberline pant, you now have them in what's called the brush pant. So it still has knee pad pockets. It has hip vents now. It's a little lighter weight, but it's still got waterproof seat and knees. It's awesome. It's awesome. So we kind of did the Endure pant last year, which is kind of this great right in the middle versatile pant, does everything pretty well. And then Pursuit and Timberline, or Pursuit and Brush pant on each side of that is what's coming out this year. And then there's a really innovative jacket. It's a brand new windstopper. It's got stretch, which Gore windstopper's not had stretch in the past. It's got stretch, but it is actually perceivably breathable to the user, to the person wearing it. We put it in something called the Timberline Pro jacket. This is going to be something for those mid to later season hunts, kind of the active, rifle, mountain hunter, person covering ground, needs that protection from the wind or some precipitation. But it's actually, if you can imagine, maybe the best way to describe it is kind of if you took that Ambient 100 you love so much and put a stretchy, lightweight windstopper shell over the outside of it and kind of put it in a jacket form, right? So it's got pit zips, it's got hand pockets, it's got a chest zip. That's the Timberline Pro jacket. So for that person that's hunting those shoulder seasons, starting to transition into rifle out here, I'm not sure what state you're in, but like our rifle seasons in Montana start, third week of October. It's starting to get a little sporty out there, certainly through November. That would be a great jacket to use. Used it a lot this last year and really enjoyed it. So those are kind of the highlights. There's a bunch of other stuff coming out. There's some waterfowl stuff coming out. There's a new whitetail piece called the Solace hoodie I'm super stoked about. So this is quiet, durable. This is a quiet, durable mid layer for the whitetail hunter is kind of how I built it. It's got a face mask, kangaroo pocket, deep half zip, but it's deadly quiet. I wore it whitetail hunting last year. I also wore it on a few big game hunts, bow hunts. But so that's what's coming out. And then there's some footwear stuff coming out that I won't talk about because that won't come out till August. And I don't do footwear, but there's some new footwear stuff coming out for us as well. So yeah, pretty exciting season. I'm just like, I'm so anxious because it's been done in my world for like a year and you still can't talk about it, right? So I'm ready for it to be out and be able to get some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of share that same feeling that you have with developing articles of clothing. I worked for McNeilius Trucking, so we would be designing these garbage trucks. But like you said, I'd be 2 to 3 years out helping work with the engineers and progressing those new models through our plant to where the customer hasn't seen it and won't see it in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And you can't really say anything about it.
I know. It's like fall 26 in my mind is already been done. Everybody knows about it. It's old school. I'm on to fall 28, and the reality is the world doesn't even know what fall 26 is. They haven't spent $1 on it yet, and you're just like, you're moved on. So, I mean, most of the stuff I have in my barn, clothing wise, if you look, you're like, what's that? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's just a prototype. Like, I don't even have the production stuff because I'm testing fall 27 and fall 28 stuff. I don't even take the time to buy the fall 26 stuff because I've moved on, and I've
Cool.
got prototypes of it. So yeah, it's interesting to like keep your mind where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Where do you see Sitka going the next kind of 3-5 years? Do you think they're just going to keep pushing the envelope and keep progressing along with clothing, or do you see something different changing on the horizon?
So it's getting harder and harder with clothing technologies. Like I said, I've already got fall 27 and 28 done. I've basically tried to reset whitetail hunting and whitetail hunting clothing. Try to make things lighter. One of the things I think about is, can I take that 8-piece clothing system I just talked to you about? Is there a way to take those 8 pieces and get the same performance out of 5 or 6, so that we're carrying less in the field and that it's a little lighter weight and takes up less room in our pack? Like, that's what I'm trying to think about, is building systems. We launch fish. So I think you're going to see in the hunting industry is going to be the hunting fishing industry. I think most of the, I'll call them top tier brands, are all going to be in fishing in the next year or two. So it's not just going to be a hunt brand, it's going to be a hunt fish brand. So Sitka launch fish. I think you're seeing footwear also integrated into that. So you're going to see an expansion of footwear with what we do. And then now that we've kind of got that kind of foundation set, we're trying to go back and, I've got this, I call it a Frankenstein pack in my barn right now, where, we're looking at, okay, what is the future state of hunting backpacks, of meat hauling? What does that look like? I know well, you probably don't know, and it's not for me to say, but there's 3 or 4 new hunting packs coming out at some point over this summer. So it's like, what does that look like? Just always thinking ahead and going, what are the problems I'm having? If I'm having the problems, if my buddies are having the same problems, like, I'm sure other people are having those problems. Can we think about how to solve those? And I like to say, let's try to solve problems that hunters don't even know they have. Not that they're not experiencing those problems, but maybe they just, in their life, they haven't thought about, man, I wonder if there's a way to solve that, or, hey, I got an idea to solve that. So that's what we try to do, talk to consumers and, our athletes and stuff, and just always be thinking how to do better, honestly.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. John, how many years have you spent hunting now?
So if I start, I try at least 42.
42 years.
Yeah, it might be 44, but I'd say at least 42, like legit. Yeah.
That's awesome. Out of all those years now, with all your experience, would you rather hunt solo or with a team or a buddy?
Yeah. If you're asking me today, which obviously you are, I would say, because I've got some good hunting buddies, I'd rather hunt with at least one good hunting buddy than by myself anymore. Not that I still don't even crave going out by myself. And a lot of that is now in my kind of in the off season training, right? Like, I'll go for an overnight or 2-night backpack trip, more of a shakeout, just to get away from, social media and stuff. I'll go and do that by myself. I don't necessarily want or need other people there.
Yeah.
But when I'm actually hunting, if I have a good hunting partner or two, and now I have 3, right? So I feel blessed because I've never had that. I'd definitely rather have, at least one other person in camp to share that with, to share the work, again, like we said, to share the low points, to kind of bolster each other. But to me, it's like, and you said it better than I will, but it just makes the experience much more enjoyable. The memories richer, right? When you look at that bull on the wall behind you, you're like, you don't just think of that hunt, but you think of the people that were there with you on that hunt, and I just think that's a great experience that, for me anyways, has been the hardest struggle, is finding good partners, or maybe to own it more. I've not been a good partner in the past with other people, and that could be a climbing partner or hunting partner. And so I've had to figure that out for myself as well and go, hey man, like, pull your head out of your own butt, and like, don't just, point the finger, but look in the mirror. And so I've tried to, kind of live up to that. And maybe that's why, I do have some good partners now.
That's awesome. I've asked that same question to a ton of influencers on some of the podcasts, and then at a couple expos and shows that I were at. And I have yet to find somebody that has 20 plus years of experience that enjoys just strictly hunting solo. It's always kind of a combination. It's either, okay, I like to go on these solo hunts, but I like to come back to the camp, to
Yeah.
that trailhead, and sit around the fire and share those stories.
Yeah.
Or it's, I enjoy going on hunts with others versus solo hunting. So I think it's a combination of, okay, at least having a guy or two out there that you have communication and you feel safe, and if something goes south, you can get on your satellite and say, hey man, I need your help over here. I'm in a bad situation.
Yeah. I think for say mule deer hunting, maybe you guys split up, and each guy, you're out there together, but each guy's separated by a mile because you're looking into different basins. And you're maybe living in separate camps for a couple of days, but you got mutual support. You can text or in-reach each other. You can, hey, after 2 days, let's meet back here. Or elk hunting, I mentioned, I went out, we all went out solo at times, but then there's other times I'm like, man, the bulls are really vocal right now. I could really use a caller. Or my buddy said, man, I could really use a caller. And it's like, check, yeah, like, let's go. And so but again, you're still falling back to camp, every night or every other night. You have those guys on the mountain that'll help you, haul that meat out of the hellhole. And there's so much confidence you gain from that, right? But there's also, it's like, I don't want to come back and have to relate the story completely on my own. Like, oh, you should have been there. It's like, well, they were there, right? And if they weren't there when I killed, they were at least there in camp, right? Yeah. And like, we saw this crazy meteor shower last year.
Oh, wow.
And like, we all got to see it together. So I didn't have to like, try to like paint pictures with words. It's like, yeah, bro, remember that? Oh, that was crazy,
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know. It's just, maybe I'm getting old and soft, but I still do enjoy the challenge of going out by myself, but I don't want to do it all the time anymore, for sure.
Now, when you look at your survival strategies and tactics, when you're hunting with another guy, do you think your safety is greatly improved by hunting with others, or do you think that it could be a detriment at the same time? I mean, when you're going into that and you're looking at your survival tactics and stuff like that, when you have another guy out there, are you benefiting from that, or are you putting yourself at harm's way?
I mean, there's definitely safety in numbers. I live in grizzly bear country. I lived in Alaska. Statistics show that if you're with at least one other person, the chances of you having a deadly encounter are greatly diminished, right? Because you're a bigger presence, you make more noise, you're situationally aware because you have more eyeballs looking around. So I'd say that is definitely safety in numbers. If I get hurt, you can help with that. You can tend to me in camp, etc. So I don't think there's any negative to having somebody there. But I would tell you that if you're out and say we have to go and pack raft into an area to access, our honey hole, or to a place that, is maybe we have to float a river through private land to get to public, and there's a set of rapids, but my buddy doesn't swim, right? Or my buddy doesn't know how to paddle, or my buddy is ignorant or stubborn and doesn't want to wear a life vest. Then I would say he's not only a danger to himself, but now he's endangering the team, right? Or if you and I are partners and I go and take my medical first aid, wilderness first responder course, and you're just like, no, I'm not doing it, bro. I'm not going to take the time. I'm not going to spend the money. So I'm the one with medical knowledge, and you're not. What are you there for? Like, if I'm out of it, I can't treat myself. You're not going to be, you're kind of worthless. And so trying to align kind of those, which again has been kind of the hard part, but to align those skill sets, it's like, hey, let's, every 2 years, let's go take, the 1-day wilderness first aid course, which has CPR in it. Okay, check. Hey, let's make sure that both of us carry a medical kit and a possibles pouch or a survival kit, right? Let's make sure that each of us has an inReach. If you do that and you start to align, now that group provides more capability than either one person could on their own. That is true, like, teamwork and force multiplication. But if one guy or two guys are like dragging everybody behind because it's like, oh, bro, you always carry all the extra gear, I'm not going to carry anything. And then, I kill my mule deer and I hike out, and my buddy stays in the mountains for 2 more days to hunt till I come back, and something happens to him. Well, now he's now in danger because he doesn't have anything because he's relied on me for it all. So, I think you have to think through those things. There should be at least some common basic safety that, if you're going to agree to go together, you should have.
I agree. That first aid, that's huge. If you're going on a Western hunt and you don't have first aid knowledge or taking a course or certified, you're just asking for trouble. And you can have your first aid kit, but not know how to use it and cut off. If you can't shut off an artery, you're just going to bleed out.
Right. And, let's be honest. That's probably, strained backs, twisted ankles or knees, maybe a broken bone, right? But most of the time, as hunters, at least for me, like what I've seen, it's like, I'm going to cut myself, I'm going to stab myself, or my buddy's going to do it to himself. And so the ability to manage blood and like stop that is a big deal. And, God forbid, you cut a femoral or something. It's like, do you have a tourniquet? Do you know how to use it? Like, all those kinds of things come into play. And so I just say, like, for survival, you shouldn't be paranoid, but you should be prepared. And we're all going to have a little bit different perspective on that. But I just think we should be prepared for the commonalities: diarrhea, allergies, headaches, some pain, some cuts, some scrapes, some abrasions, maybe a broken bone. If you want to go one step further, because you guys are like, hey, man, like, we rifle hunt, and where we rifle hunt is a lot of people like maybe gunshot wounds, right? But make sure that you're not carrying sutures and airways and stuff if you have no idea even how to spell them, let alone use them, right? So it's like, that's not going to do you any good. It's just going to build this false sense of confidence that's not really going to provide anything for you.
I agree. What should we get into some hunting tactics or styles, or what's your hunting style? What do you like to do when you go out west, or what type of game do you like to hunt, John?
So, elk right now is at the top of my list every year. I used to be mule deer before I moved to Montana, and I really do enjoy mule deer, but I think I'm definitely done hunting mule deer in Montana. One, I don't think they're just not good. It's not great age class here. I think they need a break. I did kill one a couple years ago, but I'm a huge whitetail hunter, right? Because I grew up in Ohio, like I said. And so I actually hunt whitetail in Montana. I shouldn't say this to anybody, but I love come November, all I want to do is be in a tree stand hunting whitetails or, a saddle. But other than that, it's elk. Elk has to lead the charge. Um, that's where I put all my effort, all my focus, all my vacation days, and then everything else kind of like falls or tears down from there. Yeah, if I ever got the once in a lifetime sheep hunt or moose hunt, maybe. But, I don't even want to go hunt like Alaska for moose or caribou in September because I'm an archery hunter, so it's like that's what I want to do is hunt elk, and then whitetail, and then everything else kind of falls kind of where it can.
Well, we can be friends, John. We're both the same way. So
Good,
I'm from
good to know.
yeah, from Minnesota. I grew
Oh
up
yeah, yeah,
whitetail hunting, just obsessed, diehard
yeah, man.
whitetail hunter, man. I was all in for it. And then I started hunting mule deer. My mom's side is from Pierre, South Dakota.
Oh yeah,
So I got into the mule deer on the West River.
yeah.
So I was obsessed with mule deer there for a little while. And now I got into the mountain hunting and Western hunting last 10 years, and I've been stuck on elk, man.
Yeah.
But when I come home to Minnesota, it's like, oh, whitetails, let's get after them.
Oh yeah, and I'll still hunt mule deer, if I draw tags out of state, but I'm very strategic about, when those tags fall. So, like I'll draw my Iowa tag, I think next year again for whitetail. So, that's where I'll go next November, try to fit in a little Montana hunting, for whitetail. But yeah, elk is it, and just living in Montana, blessed enough that you always get a general season elk tag. So it's not something, now maybe you don't get you can draw for certain units, but like you're always going to have a general season elk tag. And, to me, it's like bow hunting these fire breathing beasts in September. It's like it's as close as you'll get to hunting a dinosaur with a spear in modern day, right? Like maybe a brown bear or something like that, but most people aren't going to get to do that. So it's like these elk are just so fired up, they're vocal, they're aggressive, they're loud. And it's just so fun when it's like that. It can be the opposite when they're quiet and you're like, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever." But if you do hit it right, there's nothing better in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. What are some of your favorite tactics for elk? What do you kind of hone in on?
I think it really depends on the terrain. Again, Montana's pretty diverse in areas you can hunt them. You can hunt them in the thick timber in the Northwest. You can hunt them almost on the plains and the breaks, kind of out east. I tend to hunt them in more, I'll call it broken terrain, where there's definitely timber pockets, but there's big stretches of open parks and things like that. I kind of prefer that the most. I really do like to be able to glass. So if the elk aren't bugling, I can at least hopefully find them, right? I can glass them in the morning, I can glass them in the evening, and I can go and try to put myself in a position to ambush. So I've certainly killed them by, getting them called in or calling them into buddies. I just mentioned last year that happened. But I would say my preferred tactic is really to ambush them. So if I can hear them, if I can see them, to get in position, almost like hunting them like a mule deer, which again, if it's a little open, you can do that. And then trying to put myself in position, the best bull I ever killed, we never called to. We saw him. We saw his kind of line of drift where we thought he'd be. We went in, we cut him off. We heard him bugle. We kept maneuvering, and he walked right past us. And he had no idea when I shot him that we were even there. I think those are the ones that have probably yielded the best success for me. It can, you never know. I'm not the best caller, but you never know. Sometimes it's like you call, are they going to run away? Are they going to run in? Right? Or you call and like the herd bull's gonna run away, but the satellite's gonna come in. So I think it's really dependent. But if I can ambush, and I'm not opposed to sitting water or wallows if a need be. then I'll do that. But I really do like to glass and slip in. I'll call when I need to, but I'm not like, that's not my default tactic by any means. It's like if I can kill my bull and never let them know I'm there, then that's what I would prefer to do.
I agree. For me, it's been, I thought calling was the way to go. Like
Everybody will tell, like when I say everybody, like it seems like everybody will tell you that on social media,
right,
but it's just a tactic in a quiver full of tactics is the
right.
way I look at it. Yeah.
And then when I reflect back on it, John, I used to do a lot of calling. Like a lot of my years and my early years were in Montana. I typically would draw that general tag
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was out there all the time getting a lot of experience
Yeah.
into a lot of elk. And I would do a lot of calling, but they'd always hang up at like
Yeah.
80 to 100 yards. I couldn't ever close that distance. I was having those interactions, but I wasn't making the kills.
Yeah.
That's what matters. You want to kill it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I've kind of honed in my tactics to now, okay, I'm not calling near as much, basically kind of leave the calls in my bag. And when I am calling, it's in the dark. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of using those calls to get in closer. And then to your point, I'm cutting them off. I'm getting into that vicinity, and then I'm going to let that situation develop and happen.
Yep. Yep. People who, haven't hunted a lot of elk, they might not realize like elk are very noisy. They're a herd animal. And even if they're not bugling, they are making noise walking through the woods. And so, some of the more highly pressured areas around where I live, they'll bugle their heads off in the dark and they will shut up at gray light. So if you're there to either know where they are and start moving in their direction with the wind in your face, of course, in the dark, even if the bull shuts up and you pay attention, you can hear them moving. And if you know the land and start to learn it, you're like, oh man, they're going to that bench. Oh man, they're going to that wallow. Oh, if I'm up top, I'm gonna, when the thermals switch, by the time they get there, I can take advantage of that. I have found that to be, that chess match a little easier because, especially if you don't have a buddy who calls or is a good caller, they will hang up in my experience. And if I don't have the buddy, if my buddy's 80 yards behind me calling, then maybe the bull comes to me, so to speak.
Right.
But without that, it just, it's too much of a crapshoot for me. I'm not the world-class elk caller. And even those guys, I know some of them, like even those guys, you see the success. That's not that they don't tell you, but you don't pay enough attention to them telling you, well, I walked 15 miles for 3 days bugling my head off to get one bull to finally want to play the game. It's like, if that's the way you want to play it, that's cool. But like, it's not, hey, every time you call, a bull's going to come charging in. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I've over the years, last couple of years, I've really kind of just developed my own strategies, and I've taken a lot of knowledge from the guys and podcasts and stuff like that. But I think the last year or two, what's really worked and I've seen that's worked out in the field is putting yourself into those situations to be successful. And what I mean by that is you're literally walking at night most of the time. And that's when they're talking. When they're most vocal.
Yeah.
But then even before that, okay, how do you make sure you're getting enough sleep and you can function out there? Because I take off a month or two and I'm out there the whole time. I can't wear myself out anymore.
No.
And I need to make it last, and I need to be smart about how I'm hunting out there. And to me, I think if you're starting a fire at night, you're wasting a lot of time. You're wasting a lot, unless you absolutely need it and you got a lot of rain or you're wet or you're soaked, you're wasting too much time starting that fire. You're waking up in the middle of the night because you're either sweating because it's too hot in there and you're trying to start it again. But if you can set yourself up to where you're either wearing it depends on how cold it is, to where you can be at a constant temperature and not wake up at all. Now you're able to recuperate, and you can last a lot longer out in the mountains. I think that fire before night is an absolute, it can kick you in the tail, and you're losing a lot of hours out there trying to um, recuperate during your sleep. And then on top of that, I use a cot now. I got 4 llamas, so I'm able to bring in some extra gear and whatnot. But I still very mobile out there. So like last year, we were out in Wyoming, and we went in 7-8 miles a time or two. Didn't find any elk, but then we found the most elk like 2 miles from the road, the trailhead. So I just left the llamas at the trailer during the day, and I went in and
Yep.
walked back in and out, and I was
Yep.
into elk. But so I try to be as mobile as possible. But with that cot system, it helps you stay organized because you're up off the ground. And then you basically have 3 different areas that you have your gear under. You can kind of compartmentalize where your stuff is at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time savers in the mountains to put yourself to be successful day in, day out.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, if you don't perfect those skills, I think you're at a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, there's I mean, we all have this, rightly so, romantic notion of, Western hunting in the mountains, and I'm certainly not saying it doesn't exist. But, elk specifically, I'm out there to do a job. I'm out there to do this almost overwhelming task, right? Which is to try to kill a bull with a bow, or just try to kill a bull with any weapon. There's not a lot of, maybe in later season there's more time in camp, but there's not a lot of time in camp. I mean, by the time I get back to camp and eat dinner, it's 9-10 o'clock at night. I'm getting up at 3:34, right? And so there's not this romanticizing around the fire, playing the harmonica kind of thing, and cooking burgers. So like I'm eating and going to bed. And I'm also, to your point, like that's where staying on the mountain, sleeping in the middle of the day, those afternoon naps, right, to like at least get the sleep. But I don't think we talk about it enough, but there is this, you do have to figure out your efficiency. So your food, your water, your sleep, to stay in the game for day after day after day after day. I mean, rarely am I killing in the first couple days, I mean, the last couple years it's been like day 10, 11, 12 of, full day pushes. And so, that's where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go sleep on the mountain. I'm not even coming back to camp. If I'm hunting that close, like I'm going to stay on the mountain because I can wake up a little later and be in perfect position for the elk to come to me if they keep doing the same thing they've done the last 2 days. Right. And so that you're just trying to save that, that effort if you can. I would say the mobile thing is also another huge part. I don't have llamas, right? But if you pack 8 miles in, backpack in, take the llamas in, and there's no elk there, and you got 7 days to hunt, well, you just spend a day to get there, a day to get out, and maybe a day. You just burn 3 days. It's like, where are you going to go now? And so it's like, have multiple places to go. And the hardest thing to me about elk hunting is finding the doggone elk. Once you find them, now you can start to apply a strategy to kill one, right? But it's like staying mobile. And so I think the llamas probably helps tremendously. But yeah, don't just, I talk to guys all the time and they're like, oh man, I went 10 miles in and spent 4 days and never heard a bugle. I'm like, maybe you should have. And I mean, I joke a little bit, but I hate to say stay in camp and hunt closer to the road, but man, there's a lot of great hunting within 2, 3, 4 miles of the road that people are just walking by because they feel like they have to go. And if they do, if that's the experience they want, go for it. And I certainly have done it. But I've also, hunted around, when I say hunt around camp, like within several miles of camp, and I'm like, oh, there's something going on here. There's something not. There's sign. I hear a bugle not. And then I'm moving. And then I'm moving. And then I'm moving. Okay, now I finally found a place I can dedicate. Then I'm going to pack in if I need to. Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, they're big animals. So I don't think guys realize enough to where you're going to know when you're in them when you're not in them.
Yeah.
They're big animals. They're loud. They're noisy. They're sign.
Yep.
And at nighttime, they're going to be bugling, especially if it's around the rut. I mean,
Yep. And the other thing is just with the size, of course, again, llamas, horses is one thing, but packing out a 700-800 pound animal from even 3 miles in with just one buddy, let alone by yourself, is a daunting task that people need to absolutely think through their plan of how they're going to do it and be realistic about it. How many trips? How long? Is the meat going to spoil? What am I going to do when I get this thing down? And if you go 8 miles in with a backpack, you and a buddy, and you're going to hunt elk, it's like, bro, how are you going to get that thing out? And one elk is going to be the end of your trip, because that's going to be all your energy and all your time to do that. And if that's what you want, that's cool. Just be realistic about it. Every time I've killed a bunch of bulls and I walk up on every single one, or my buddies, and I'm just like, oh my God, we got a job ahead of us,
Yeah, I agree.
So,
and if you're not used to llamas or livestock, it can be a completely different challenge to where
I'm sure
it's not that easy either. Like
I'm sure.
You have to have those skills as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to use an e-bike this year for the first time to hit a couple remote areas to the edge of wilderness. I can't take it into wilderness or on certain Forest Service and stuff, but like there's a few areas I'm going to use it to access to get in there. And then I've got a trailer to help me, if I kill a bull, get it out. But you're always thinking, and I've ridden mountain bikes and raced them for years, but so I'm comfortable with that. But if you gave me llamas, I'd be like, dude, I need to spend all summer with these things to even figure out how to tack them up,
Yeah.
So
that was me the first year. I had 2 llamas from Bo Beatty.
God
bless his heart. He helped me out a ton with them and taught me everything I know.
I've heard he's awesome. Yeah,
he is. But if I didn't know that, and that first year I did struggle. I was out in Wyoming and I shot a nice 6-point bull, and I'm like, okay, I got these 2 llamas. How the heck do I get all these meat on these 2 critters and myself and get the heck out of there?
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy.
Yeah. So, to me, it's all an adventure, and that's what I love about it the most and what keeps me going back. And, I want people, I truly want everybody to find success. And they may measure that different than, everybody measured a little different, but, the one, I would say if I've seen this kind of one common or overarching mistake, I use mistake in air quotes, but is that everybody goes out there and they want to kill that. Of course you want to kill a nice bull. Let's just say a 6-point, 6x6. But I think the stat is like it takes the average person 7 or 8 years to kill an elk. I'm not even sure and that's not a 6-point bull. And I've got buddies that have like passed, rags and spikes and even cows if they're legal with their bow, and they've gone year after year after year after year after year with never drawing their bow, never getting a rep, never packing the meat out, never getting the experience. And they're like, well, I'm holding out for, a certain age class or size or some number. And I'm like, man, I think that's a huge mistake because, of course, I'll show you the 6x6 that I've killed or the dozen or so that I've killed, right? What you don't see is the spikes and the rags in between the 6x6s that I've also killed that have given me the reps, the experience, the calling sequence, the ability to get in and understand the animal behavior, that when that bull of a lifetime steps in front of me, it's not the first time that I've got the rep in shooting an elk. And, it's like, 1, the meat's awesome. 2, the whole experience is incredible. There's so much to learn. That I just say, especially if you're starting out, the first legal animal, you should strongly consider killing and getting those reps and learning how you work and the bow works and the broadhead and the meat pack and all that stuff is just invaluable in my opinion.
Yeah, I second that, man, for sure. What hunts do you got going on this year? What tag did you draw any tags or you're in Montana, right?
Yeah, I'm in Montana, so I didn't apply this year for anything out of state. I had a right hip surgery 2 months ago. Actually, it'll be 2 months tomorrow. And I just wanted to make sure that I was fully recovered. So I've got, a lot of points across the West that I just not didn't want to cash in. Started to cash in this year. So I got my elk I drew my antelope tag in Montana. I got my elk, my standard 2 week elk hunt in Montana. I'm gonna hunt whitetail in Montana. I got a lease that I get for 2 weeks, and then I always go down to Texas once or twice for whitetail, and then I'm gonna go to Alabama for whitetail as well. So that's kind of like what my season is, which is great. That's enough, with everything I got going on. That's plenty. I mean, I always want to do more, but in another year or two, when I kind of quote semi-retire, that's when I'm going to start cashing in the points. Because like you, I'm jealous, right? I'm envious that like if I draw when I draw my Utah elk tag, like I'm all in the whole season. Like I don't want to be worrying about PowerPoint presentations and all this kind of crap. Like I'm all in because I have to maximize my time. And so, yeah, so I'm always happy. I'm truly blessed to live in Montana and have access to the tags we do. I didn't get out black bear hunting this spring because of the hip surgery, but normally I would do that. But yeah, I got a pretty full season.
It's awesome. The hip's doing good? Is it?
It's incredible. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, back hiking. Yeah, back hiking. Up to 30 pounds now. My kind of not standard necessarily, but like, I'll work up to like 45-pound training hikes. I'm not there yet. So back to 30 on the assault bike, back in the gym, lighter deadlifts, back squats, body weight stuff. But yeah, it's doing great.
Cool.
It's doing great.
Awesome, man. Got any questions for us before we wrap up?
No, I just really appreciate the opportunity, man. I love, like you, like I really want to help people, and I could tell, talking to you beforehand, like that's your platform as well. I just think it's awesome, right? It's like there's so many people that want to get into this or that into this and don't know where to go and progress. And if we have a little experience, I think it's almost like incumbent on us or like our obligation to pass that on. So I just appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk with you.
Well, thank you so much, John. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And where can guys find you or look you up if they're trying to get a hold of you, or look up John Barklow?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and it's at Barklow. I've been posting a lot more recently, but it's all educational content. It's not pictures of my cat or my wash truck or anything. It's all educational content, outdoor stuff. And I've got a website, knowledgefromstorms.com. There's a landing page there for the book. If anybody wants to pre-order that, that'd be awesome. But that book comes out next April. Truly, I think it's like it's every bit of knowledge that I've had and learned in the outdoors the hard way. I've tried to put into that book with a lot of stories for entertainment, but also like every screw up I've ever done. So hopefully people can learn from my mistakes and not make the same ones. But those are basically the big platforms. And then, like I said, outdoor class. I just released my third course called Backpack Hunting. That's a great one. I've got a couple more coming out this year as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. We appreciate you, and hopefully you guys have some success out in the field this year, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. Good luck to you as well.
Yep, you bet.
That's a wrap for this episode. Remember to stretch those legs, scout new trails, and share Join Team Hunt with a friend. The next story with that ultimate team is just around the bend.